coffee though.
I'll tell you what time I text Jeff at 3:43 and said I'm out. I'm in bed. So, been used to a lot of one night. Go back in the Southland days, we played Thursday, Saturday, or Saturday, Monday. So I'm a big fan of them actually. Then if the Big 12, you had Big Monday or Little Monday, as we called them there. I mean, you had one day terms, so no problems. Interesting stat sheet last night. Get more shots than them by a large margin, get out rebounded by a large margin, turn them over at an alarming rate, get out rebounded by an alarming rate, and then at the end of the day, I felt better about our game from an offensive standpoint than I felt in some time. We actually drove the ball, we kicked it, we moved it, it didn't stick. I liked our fight on the defensive end for the most part. We had a bad 6 minutes, which is an improvement for our team. 6 minute stretch, which was into the first half and the start of the second, and missed plays, and then we can be really quite honest. I mean, they had the two best players on the court by far, and that's not a slam on our guys. Those guys are lottery picks, and the more I watch the tape of the game and some of the stuff Jackson does, and his call from an NBA scout today, he reminds me of Kevin Garnett at the same age. Man, he's good, and it's we don't have tons of rim protection. That's obvious, and it didn't matter what you do against them. They play way above the rim, and Bridges is a guy that got him off to a great start, and obviously there wasn't much we were going to do about some of those lobs to the rim. But on to the next one, and you get a 5-3 Indiana team coming in here, and it's for us it's about playing same kind of intensity, same kind of emotion, keeping the same type of flow and ball movement. Indiana's very, very good defensively. I like the way Archie's got it playing, and on the defensive end, Juwan Morgan's having an off-the-chart year for them, and then Robert Johnson's a guy who's been through all the wars and the battles, and upperclassman, and this is a team that just finding ways, and that's a tribute to the players and to Archie, and they're not overly big. It'll be just the opposite of what we saw in Michigan State. This is a team that at times is, Juwan 6'7". Sometimes they start with Freddie McSwain, who's a JUCO kid at 6'5", 6'6", and so they're a little different team than what we played last night. But all in all, they're led by a very good senior guard in Johnson, and Juwan Morgan's having an outstanding year for him.
Can you talk about your history with the Miller family and when you first became aware of Sean and Archie, their dad, maybe?
Yeah, 5-star basketball camp a long time ago. Man, as a kid, and you knew about Sean and his ball handling exploits, and back in the day, and then Sean in his career at Pitt, and then Archie and in his own right was an outstanding player and succeeded at a very high level, and they both turned in as very good players into great basketball coaches, and it's admiration for guys who do it the right way, and those guys are winning at a high level and both do great jobs.
Last night you talked about fighting for your culture. Maybe just elaborate a little more what you meant by that and the steps you and your staff are taking to insert that culture to this program.
Yeah, it's a fight every day. It's not just, to be specific, it's not one thing. It's a conglomeration of who we want to be, how we want to do things, the pride we want to have in our program. And I mean, it could be something as little as how we leave the practice court every day, how we leave the visiting team's locker room. There won't be one piece of tape on the floor when we leave. We'll leave it like we got it, and it's the coaches working with players and contributing and making those relationships strong, and then it's the expectation level we have for players both on and off the court, and the effort with which we're going to play. I say this, it's very hard to control whether the ball goes in, but we can control the effort and with the way with which we play the game, and that's culture. And it's the way with which our players carry themselves, and we look on the bench, and we look on the sideline, and we act. You can look at any great organization and any great team. There's no detail too small because they all become part of something much larger. And it's the pride with which we keep our locker room. It's all those things that are the culture that we're changing and fighting for, and trying to understand and implement. And it doesn't happen every single day, it doesn't get turned in a day. The consistency with which we want to play. I was really upset after the Wisconsin game. That's not anything I want Illinois basketball to be about. And I'll be honest, I haven't fought for that. And it's leadership, and it's players' ownership in the program. It's so many things. It's not just one thing. So you play a team that outmanned you, and yet we fought. And I can live with that in the short term. But some nights are just better, and that was the case last night. But I liked what culture piece we put in place last night. Now we got to do it again.
Watching Trent last night, we talk about Trent a lot, and sometimes we talk about his scoring, but he looks like a guy that's really taking more pride in his defense and really, and maybe impacting it a little bit more too. Did you see that? Am I right about that?
Yeah, I was really curious. We talked as a staff. I was really curious to see how Trent would handle this game, just because of the overwhelming size from both an offensive standpoint and knowing that we like Mark. In a lot of cases, also work on the ball, and so Trent gets matched up with a bigger guy. But I mean, there was a play in the kind of the top of the key area in front of our bench where there was kind of looked like a wrestling match, and him and the shooter, I'm drawing a blank, Langford. Him and Langford are just kind of tussling in there, and Trent takes the bow to the chops, so to speak, and he's just fighting and competing, and Trent's got that in, and like I said, Trent might be small, but he's a great competitor, and I was really pleased with the way he played last night. Fought through a couple fouls, but stayed engaged in the game, and he grows mentally every game.
Brad, would you say overall that the team rebounded well from the disappointment on Friday night in Wisconsin, despite the loss last night?
That's a bad word right now. Rebound, when you get out rebounded by 100, but yeah.
What do you anticipate last night's performance could do for tomorrow night?
I think if I had the answer to that question, I don't, because we haven't been that team who's been that consistent, and those everyday guys. I would hope. I told our team last night, I like this team. I'd like to coach this team. That was a team that fought. So you get behind that and sometimes as a coach, when you're not fighting, you just have to sit down. Instead of fighting officials and fighting your player, you just need to sit down, and I need to probably do that more. But I'm not going to stand for that. I liked that team last night, and now the challenge is practice today and preparing for a team that is next on the schedule. And I wish I had your answer. I wish I did. That's the culture I'm fighting for, though, is to know we should grow from that. And I was disappointed in Wisconsin because I thought we practiced well.
The players told us they had a players-only meeting on the weekend. How do you like that as a coach when you hear that they have one of those?
It's about time. It's ownership. It's ownership. This is their team. This is what they're going to be. Their buy-in. And if we can't have accountability and expect accountability, we had a lot of them in other places I've been. And it can't be me saying, hey, let's have a team meeting and airing it out. There needs to be those guys stepping up to the plate, airing some things out in that locker room that maybe that needed to be aired out a long time ago. And I don't know, I didn't ask. That's really not concerned as to what went on in there. Just glad it happened, because now there can become some buy-in, and you have to have buy-in for the name on the front of the uniform, and it's the first one. It's the first one. So it needed to happen.
Seemed like Kipper once again teased what his potential can be. What's it going to take for him to consistently play at this kind of level? Obviously not where he's averaging 27 points, but like playing at a high level in general.
Well, I think we saw what he's capable of, and I think Kipper's a really, really talented player. He has no idea how good he can become. And it worked last night. The matchups were good for us, and to his credit, he made shots, and we were able to take one of their best players and really make it hard for him to play in the game because of some of the things we did. The big guys had a hard time guarding, and but the thing that's really impressive is Kipper did that, and you look at his minutes, and 27 points in 22 minutes, something like that. And that's the growth process for Kipper. And, Kipper played half a season last year, and in a lot of ways he's a freshman from an experience standpoint. But it's why I keep driving him. It's why I keep pushing him. And you always felt like the day was going to come. We're going to see that. Now we've got to see consistent Kipper. And we made some strides last night. Got a dunk and transition and attacked the rim and didn't double clutch and do some of those things that he was doing to miss shots. So there was an aggression about him and a confidence that I really liked.
I guess I'm still kind of on the pace you want to play. Just when you get to a new program that hasn't maybe looked for scoring in 7 seconds or fewer, how do you first install that, and how do you feel like maybe that process has gone?
Scott, it was one of the biggest challenges I had at SFA. If you look at Stephen F. before I got there, there was a chicken place in town, and they would give like free chicken away if they got to 60, and that's the truth. And the pace of play was really, really slow. It was instinct. It took us half a year or more just to get guys to even think about taking a numbers advantage in attacking, let alone shoot a three. There's some of that here. Some of it is personnel related, maybe why we can't play quite as fast. I think they get a little bit of taste of what the defense, when you turn a team over 25 times, you get some live ball turnovers, you're going to get some easy baskets, and that helps those numbers as well. But it takes a little bit, and it's personnel based and system based. But it took me a while at SFA to instill that. You look at our first year compared to our last year, and there's a drastic difference.
Coach, how did you grade out what you saw from Mark Smith last night? Made some plays early, maybe had some more aggressiveness before some foul trouble.
Yeah, Mark was really good. Mark's been really good. Mark played extremely well in Nebraska. Problem has been keeping Mark on the court consistently because of fouls. And last night I thought he was in a great flow. He got 2 steals. We keep challenging Mark at the defensive end. It was a hard, really tough matchup for him last night. Let's face it. I mean, there's an athletic and size disadvantage he was at all night, and yet he was up for the challenge. And he made a rotational foul that got him his second. Just on a bad closeout, and those are things we need Mark to become more consistent with. Is proper technique, and yet his effort's there, his 1-2 is there, and but gosh, he took one really bad shot, and I got on him a little bit at the timeout. He took 5 or 6 dribbles and came off our 2-man game and drove it into a plethora of size with 17 or 18 on the clock, and those were things that he could get away with in the past, and he's got to learn those. Michigan State especially leads the. We talked about getting in the paint and spraying it and moving it around, but I've been really pleased with the way he's played. He's starting to do other things, and he's starting to share the ball. It's not just based on him making baskets and scoring, whether his effort is good or bad based on points. So his decision making in Lincoln was great, and thought he played. Thought he played okay in Madison, and I thought he was really good again last night.
You may have just answered this question. Been blocked 19 times in the last couple of games, not really getting to the line. You guys drive inside, clean blocks, they lose the possession. Is that just because the last 2 teams are really tall? Do you need to change something to get?
I think there's some IQ involved in that. We talk about driving the basketball all the time, Rob. I think it's one of the things that I go back to the stat we had last year. We scored about 60% of the time, a little above. 70% of the time when the ball touched the paint last year. However you get it there, through the pass or through the dribble. And we don't have a lot of what I would consider, exceptional passers from those positions. We sometimes get it too deep, but we've got to learn. And, that was big boy basketball last night, and a lot of size, and sometimes when you're a guard, you got to know when to get it in there and not get it too deep and pitch it out, and that's what we talked about. It's what we worked on, and yet we got to become a little better than that. Either that, or we got to get way more athletic and jump over them.
Earlier this season, you talked about how you're used to having guys that bouncing off walls and kicking out doors before the start of games. Are you starting to see your guys progress more towards something like that?
Last night was really good, so I hope tomorrow night is too. Yeah, it's all mental preparation. Everybody does it differently. Some people can be a little more, but it's amazing when you go watch even NBA teams and their pregame stuff before a playoff game. I'm not going to say during the regular season, but in playoff games, and those guys are pretty amped up. They're bouncing off the walls, and we only get 30+ nights a year to go do that. And for me, it's unacceptable not to do that. And we're getting better at it. We're getting better at it. Guys are becoming conscious of that and understanding. So I think it's showed in our starts. Maybe we need to do a little more at halftime, but Right now, I'm for banning halftime, but, so,
What became of the chicken place? Did you put them out of business, or did they raise the?
well, they kept raising it. They kept raising, it got to, it ended up at 75. Was free, you know, they would announce it free chicken. It was Cane's chicken, so I think it, you know, Cane's would, once it went to 60, then to 70, and then I think it ended up about 75, so, you know, it's pretty good, so.
What are the challenges Indiana presents, Mark? What do you have to work to mitigate?
They're very good defensively. They're going to make us work. They're going to make us work to catch. They're going to make us work to move the ball. They're one of the better teams I've seen in their ball screen coverages. They're a team that is set-oriented. They're good in transition because they play. They have so many ball handlers. Morgan is a challenge in himself because he's really playing the 5 for him, but he can put the ball on the floor. He can shoot threes. You know, he's a guy that on the offensive end poses some challenges, but they play. They're like us. They play really, really hard every night, and you know, they're finding ways. And Johnson in particular is a guy that is a big shot maker. He's a hard shot maker. You know, they're a team that doesn't necessarily shoot the 3 very well, or hasn't been at, I don't know, 32%, I guess. But they're a team that seems to make them when they need to. And but this team defensively is very, very good, and they play very, very hard.
Coach, you've talked about how much you like rivalry in this game, and what do you see with this particular one?
Hadn't Illinois, Indiana always been a pretty good one? No?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why we'd ever want to stop that. You know, as a kid growing up in Kansas, when I watched Big Ten basketball, I always liked Lou and Coach Knight. And remember those battles, and to me, your neighboring states, that they used to have the Illinois-Indiana High School All-Star basketball game. Did that exist at one time, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
I thought so.
You went Indiana, Kentucky. I don't think Illinois. Indiana.
Really? Maybe not.
They went over
Maybe.
where the couple of years. Yeah, or
I don't know.
they did it over.
To me, when you're
Covington.
neighboring states and your neighboring universities, and it's and you're within the same conference, you know, should be. And to be honest, we're 2 very prideful, very historic programs that have all had a lot of success, and we had very successful big name coaches that built those programs, and that makes it pretty special.
There's nothing like when Knight came to town here. There's never been anything like that in basketball.
I heard he used to walk to the arena, or I don't know, but that's pretty good.
Can I follow on that? One thing that I've learned doing this for about 10 years is that fans hate other schools and they hate each other, but the players and the coaches are all kind of a collegial group that respect each other.
Mm-hmm. Very true. You know, I'll use an example when I was at Kansas State. Some of our closest friends in the league were the Kansas staff. You know, and yet, you know, for those 40 minutes now, it was, but, you know, you sure as the hell didn't tell your fans that you liked them. I mean, and, but, you know, it's, you know, when we left to go to South Carolina, we were back in South Carolina for a month, and I don't know, Bill was taking his team on a tour in the summer and had practices, and I mean, we were one of the first invitations to come back and watch their practices and see. And I think that, you know, it's not always that way. You know, I think coaches can add a little spice to some things, but yeah, it's really good for fans to get after and have some pride and care and not like and whatever else goes along with that. Derek's back there chuckling, so. See you guys tomorrow.
Thanks, Brad.
We got, head down to the court here, get a couple players before.